Go.
Welcome, another episode of 8192 The Truth. This is Joel D. Supernaw, and my partner is on the controls over there in freezing Ohio. Brother Sin, Kevin Sinier, how are you today?
Freezing my huevos off, brother.
Okay, so for the thousands and thousands of New Year's resolutionists that are feeling tired, they're feeling hungry, they're a little sore, maybe a little lethargic, maybe a little depressed. You know what I have to say to them? Great job. It's working. It's working, man. You know what's so funny is we'll get to your group here in a second, Sin, but for the majority of us, we think that we can change our activity, change our diet, and we're going to feel great. We're not going to go through any pain of any sort. We're not going to go through any physical pain. We're not going to go through the word is detox. If you're hurting right now in day 4, you're a little depressed, you're a little sore, you're a little hungry, you're tired. Man, you should be. You just changed everything that you were doing. You changed your activity. You changed your diet. Withdrawal. That's the word I'm looking for. Your body is going through withdrawal, and it is not a comfortable feeling. So if you're on a real program, and to me a real program is the same thing we've talked about from the start. It's activity, it's nutrition, and it's your mental side. If you're on all three of those and you weren't on them last week, you should be tired. You should be hungry. You should be sore. You should be a little lethargic. And, for a lack of a better word, a little depressed. Yeah, because you realize that your program has a long way to go. And we talk about it, there is no day any more important than one you're on. The one you're on is the most important one because it's the only one that you have control of. So I'll tell you a story real quick, Sin. Randy Couture, 7-time UFC champion, great guy, good friend of mine, was fighting Antonio Nogueira. How do you say Nogueira?
Nogueira. Yep, just like that.
All right, there we go. 1 for 1 out of the gate. So he's fighting in his hometown in Portland, Oregon, and Randy comes in. I meet him downtown about 7:30 in the morning for breakfast, and he's going to do media all day with his coach Quentin, who he brought in. And Quentin was a maniac, great guy, love him. He brought in Quentin, and he did media all day. When I say all day, Sin, I mean I went on like 3 or 4 of them. He was gone from 8:30 in the morning until 6:30 at night, one after another, finishing up with an autograph signing and picture taking, which is just, you can't. The way I like to say it is, it's pretty cool being the center of attention for half hour, maybe an hour and a half. Try being the center of attention and being on for 13 or 14 hours. So he's absolutely wiped out. And he's got to get a workout in, and he needs a partner. So I said, okay, I'll go with you. And so I go with him for about 15 minutes. He just torques on my head, beats me up in the clinch. And he goes with Quentin for about 45 minutes to an hour. Hard. And I was because he was just so dead tired before. And he told me, when he finished, I was like, man, hey, Rock, man, great job. Wow. He said, yeah. He said, I learned this through the years that when I feel the worst, it feels the best. And that's something that all of us can take in. I know when like tonight, I had one of those spots because, again, I'm with you. I'm changing. I'm feeling a little tired. I'm feeling a little hungry. I'm feeling a little sore. I'm feeling a little lethargic, a little depressed. But I went to my workout. I pushed it, and I felt great. And I think about that Randy story every time I'm in that situation, but not every time do I answer the bell, because the easiest thing to do is just flick it.
Yeah, definitely. I absolutely agree with that. When you feel the worst, it feels the best. I mean, that's the point when you truly notice what you're doing. So you go from 0 to 60 is a huge difference in how your body feels than if you come in revved up at 60 feeling great and you just maintain. So
now, Sin, for your guys that are on your program, now week 1, if I got this correct, is a bit of a detox. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we haven't officially started the regimen. Week 1 is the removal week. So it's detoxing, it's cutting out all the obvious things we know are bad for us. If we're a pop drinker, if we're a smoker, if we're a fast food eater, whatever it may be, week 1 is cleansing, is just removing all those so we can get as close to a clean baseline as possible next week to start on the actual nutrition. So we're not going right from a 12-pack of Diet Coke and McDonald's on Sunday, and then Monday we're trying to eat clean. This week is a chance to slowly filter out our system.
One of the things, and again, I am everybody. I'm all of the people that are listening to the show, and I'm all of the people that I'm talking about, because through one time or another in my life I've done it. But one thing I've never done, one thing I have never, ever, ever, ever done, and the one thing, for whatever reason, every $3.99 personal trainer has their people, no matter how old they are, doing lunges on day one. And I'm like, what? Where did that come into place? Where did blowing your legs up on the very first day of your training program, when did that ever make sense? And why are they all like robots? Why doesn't anybody get it that, hey, let's make this fun? Let's get these guys moving. You can do a lot of different things to make somebody sweat, but lunges? Come on, man.
You're right, it doesn't make sense, but I know exactly why it's done. It's done because that's an exercise that if you haven't been doing that, if you're not flexible, if you haven't put yourself in those positions, that's something you are going to feel the next day, and especially day 2. And that makes people believe that trainer has done something, that they've worked them out. That's exactly why they do it, because that is one exercise that is guaranteed to cause soreness. And people that aren't on a regular exercise routine will, if it's not pain, they will equate soreness to progress. So that's why trainers do lunges on day 1 every time. 100%.
That's funny. That's funny. I never thought about that. That's what we in the sales business call the hook, baby. That's the absolute hook. So, I'm gonna talk about Conor and Khabib and Big Ferg. I'm gonna talk about Bellator, the heavyweight championship, kind of the foundation. The different, how the sport's entertainment now, and it wasn't always entertainment. And I got a really good take on the heavyweight championship. But one thing I promised a couple weeks ago when Robert Follis passed away is I told everybody that I was going to give it a little time, and then I was going to talk about Robert. And I'm going to talk about Robert. I'm not going to talk about the end because it's just really sad. It's really sad, and I can't get into that. But what I do want to talk about, and how I want to, you always hear me complaining about the corners being the next coming of this guy's the next. The corner guy it's the most overrated thing in the world. It is the absolute most overrated thing in the world. with that said, there's been only a few really, really, really good, not only cornermen, but coaches in this business. When Robert Follis started coaching a bunch of killers, you got to understand, this is 2000. This is the year 2000. And in one gym is Randy Couture, Matt Lindland, Evan Tanner, Chael Sonnen, Nate Quarry. Did I say Dan Henderson?
You just did.
Okay. And Dan Henderson, absolute killers. Now, there is no future. There's no real future in this sport. It's 2000. Okay? There isn't 15 or 20 places to train. There's not 10 places to do mixed martial arts in the United States of America. Okay? One of them is in the back bay of a car dealership. And we decided that Team Quest, you know, which was Matt, Randy, and Danny fighting when it started, and then Evan came out. Chael, obviously. We decided that, hey, somebody needed to make something of this. Somebody needed to be the coach. Okay? And Robert did not want to be the coach at first. Okay? Quite frankly, he said, I need, if I'm in, I'm all the way in, and I don't think I can make enough money doing this right now. Nobody had made a living being a coach. Not one single person. And so Robert decided, all right, I'm all in. And from the very second Robert Follis became the coach of that crew of killers, he was the coach. He took complete control. That is a unique ability to do, because Robert Follis was in charge of Olympians and an already UFC former champion. He was the coach. He did not take that like a lot of coaches would, in terms of, you know, this is pretty much the start of his coaching career, and he has the who's who of wrestling in this new sport, which is still pretty new, fighting in the back bay of a car dealership. And he took control, and immediately, from day one, he took control. And the one thing about Robert, as that Team Quest in the back of the dealership started growing fast as you can imagine. And in no time, now you got a new guy named Chris Lieben. Now you got another guy named Ed Herman. Now you have a guy named Nate Quarry. Now you have a guy named Dennis Davis. Now you have a guy named Ryan Schultz. Now you have a guy, and I'm leaving some out, and I apologize. Okay, I apologize, because that list goes on and on and on and on. But Robert Follis took each, not the superstars. I'm talking about people that never fought before, never gotten a stance before, and he put them in the UFC. He went. This is at the beginning. Now Robert went off to coach other people, coach Misha Tate, coach all sorts of people at Extreme Couture. I'm talking about the early days, and the reality is Robert Follis treated every single person like they were Randy Couture, and he also treated Randy Couture like he was every other person. And there's a lot to be said for that. There is so much to be said for that. When we hear these coaches talking, I will take Robert Follis's career in terms of how many people he put in the octagon in the UFC, how many people he put on the regional area as champions against anybody that has ever coached anybody in this sport. Absolutely 100%. And I will go out on a limb and say you won't find 5 interviews of Robert Follis saying my guy's going to do this or my guy's going to do this. Robert Follis was a coach. He was a coach. It was very, very important to him to be a coach. So I don't have the greatest opinion in the world of the corner man, but I do have a great opinion of that corner man because I watched him do it, and I watched him do it from day one, and it was pretty incredible. So this world and this sport goes by so fast, but for this few minutes and for our show and our guys, I want one single person to find me a coach that has had more champions than Robert Follis, that he actually took from day one and started. Don't tell me Winkle, John, and Jackson. Don't do it. If you do that, if you say Winkle, John, and Jackson, please never listen to the show again. Go on Twitter and tell everybody what an idiot I am. Okay? Please do that, because that's not reality. Okay? That's not reality. When the best athletes go to a gym, it's going to be a successful gym. Okay? Robert Follis took those guys. Chris Lieben. Okay? He was a roofer. Okay? Ed Herman, he's still fighting. He's still in the UFC. A lot of people don't know about Dennis Davis. Dennis Davis was a killer. He's been the head coach out at Team Quest for forever. And one of my favorite coaches was Dennis Davis. But, Ryan Schultz was a killer. The list, I mean, seriously, I'm leaving people out, and I apologize for that. But the reality is Robert Follis had the unique ability to command your attention. And listen, okay? At the start, in that dealership, it was Randy, Matt Lindland, Dan Henderson, and Chael. 4 killers. Okay, now Chael was the baby, but those guys are killers. And then there's Robert. Okay? He's not going to kick anybody's ass, but he commanded the respect. And Randy gave him the respect, and kind of, it filtered down from there. But an amazing coach, and I wanted to get that out there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So now, Brother Sin, I want to go back to the start of this thing. I like to do spin classes. Okay, I love spin classes. Went to a yoga class last night.
There you go.
That felt great. But the spin class is great for me because what I do is I go hide in the corner. Okay, I put my music on full blast, and I go to work. Because if I take my headphones off, I will hear training tracks that I cannot, the worst word tracks in the world, like "you can do it, you owe it to yourself." Okay, so I want to reach down and I want to give some props to some of the greatest training tracks that I have.
Nice.
Dennis Davis, the guy I just mentioned, my absolute favorite word track for training was get what you can out of it. When you reach that point to where me and you both know you don't have much left, that's the point you need to get what you can out of it, and only you can. I think about that every single time I'm trying to get an extra 30 seconds. My number one favorite training tracks, Dennis Davis, get what you can out of it. Number 2, Randy Couture. Now, Randy is one of the nicest guys in the world. He's just one of the nicest guys in the world. But somewhere, somehow, he learned. There's this game that he plays, and he grabs the medicine ball and he throws. You're out. And he throws it, and you cannot let that medicine ball touch his wall. And when he throws that ball, and it gets near the wall, he screams, and it's Randy who never screams, "Don't let that ball touch my wall." And I tell you what, you will go get that medicine ball when he is telling you that. I like that one. Now, one of the all-time greats is Get Some. Okay, everybody likes Get Some, but one better than Get Some is you got to have some to get some.
I don't know.
All right.
It sounds like a combination between a Ric Flair and a Dusty Rhodes. You gotta have some to get some.
You got to have some to get some. Run to it. Don't run away from it. Be about it. Don't talk about it. Those are things that I think about every day when I'm trying to motivate myself, because you can look on Twitter, you can look through Brother Sin, you can look on television for heroes and for everybody in the world to motivate you, but the only person that you can count on is yourself. And if you can't motivate yourself, nobody else is going to be able to do it for you.
Absolutely, and that's why my personal favorite track is Cam Hanes. You guys have heard him on Rogan and everything else. He's a big time bow hunter and ultra marathoner, but his slogans really caught fire. It's nobody cares, train harder. You're sore, you're tired, you look around the gym, everybody's doing their own thing. You realize nobody cares. Nobody cares you're here, you're not here. Just train harder. So
okay, well that's never going to be in my top 10, but I respect I respect it. I respect it. Let's move on, Sin. Let's move on to Conor, Khabib, and Big Ferg.
Big Ferg.
So, let me start off by smartening up you people. Okay, I like it when they say, "Let me smarten you up." Conor McGregor is never going to fight in the octagon again, ever, 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 ever. And let me tell you why. Okay, so Conor McGregor just made $100 million. $100 million. Do you believe that Conor is going to fight a more dangerous fight, a fight that he watched someone that he knows get killed doing inside a cage? He's going to fight a more dangerous fight against more dangerous people for 10 to 20% what he can make in a boxing match. It's not going to happen, people. It's never going to happen. He can, and the only way it could happen is if the UFC freezes him out, but they're not going to freeze him out because the UFC is an entertainment company. And if you can pay Conor $100 million to fight, guess what? You made more. You made more. He's never going to be able to fight. You cannot expect him to fight a killer like Khabib, a killer like Big Ferg. Let's be crazy. Sin, let's be absolutely insane and say he could make $20 million fighting Khabib in Russia. Let's just say that. Let's just throw that number out there. He's going to fight Khabib. A killer, okay? An absolute killer. A guy who absolutely decimated a great fighter last Saturday. He absolutely dominated him. Not only did he dominate Barbosa, he's dominated everybody he's ever fought. It hadn't been close. So we're to say, Conor, guess what? I know you can fight Mayweather. We can put the Mayweather dues together. We can do Pacquiao. We might be able to do De La Hoya. We can do all of those things. You're gonna make 80 to 100 mil for a boxing match. All right? Or Conor, let's go fight the Russian Bear. Let's go fight Big Ferg. Okay? You can say whatever you want about Gaethje and Alvarez beating the hell out of each other. How maybe that isn't the greatest technical fight in the world. You cannot in any way, shape, or form say that Khabib wasn't 100% dominant. There's a guy out there named Ricky Simone. He's a 135-pounder. He's got that kind of style. He's got that kind of gas tank. Okay? You're going to hear about Ricky. He fights just like that. And he's going to get better. But Khabib, I mean, I love Big Ferg. I'm a Ferguson mark. But how am I supposed to believe that Ferguson can beat Khabib from what I've seen? Can you make a case for it?
No. I mean, he shut down Barboza hook, line, and sinker. I mean, every bit of it. Took no damage, controlled him the entire time. I mean, Barboza is as deadly as a striker as anybody. The kicks and the speed, I mean, he's ridiculous against anybody else. But he landed nothing. Nothing.
The only two reasons you could say Ferguson could win that fight is history and wish. Okay? The second one, wish. I wish that Ferguson wins that fight. It's my wish. I wish to win the lottery. I wish for Ferguson to beat Khabib. The other one's history. Now, the history is the more important one. History's taught us in mixed martial arts that everybody can be beat, except John Jones. Everybody can be beat, but we haven't seen anybody beat Khabib. So, for anybody to think that Conor's going to come back, and can you hear me? We still good?
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody think that Conor's going to come back and fight for 20% of the purse? You're crazy. It's not going to happen. But let's just say for a second that it did. So Dana White came out today and said Conor needs to defend his title by March, and if he doesn't, we got to take the title away from him. He then furthers the argument and says that's fine because that leaves plenty of time for Khabib and Big Ferg to fight, which is absolute bullshit because now you're saying that Ferguson has to defend the interim title. So the Promise Ring. So now the Promise Ring, you're also defending it. Isn't that ridiculous? Ferguson hadn't done anything wrong. He deserved. If somebody's going to get that Conor Mayweather money or that Conor money, it should be Big Ferg. But I just don't see it happening. What do you think?
No, I don't think he does either. It just doesn't make. I mean, there's no upside for him. I mean, both Ferguson and Khabib are absolute studs. Khabib, as you just said, he's an animal. There's no upside for the amount of money that he would make for him doing it. Tarnish his legacy, take a loss, ruin any marketing possibilities, whatever it may be. There's no upside to him coming in and fighting again. And when he's got $100 million in the bank, where's the fire? Where's the fire to come back and prove that you're a fighter at heart?
There's another way. I've been wrong plenty. But boy, if Conor would come back and put the Russian Bears lights out, I mean, isn't that a Babe Ruth just walk off? I mean, if he's got balls that big that he truly believes that he can walk into Russia, take out Khabib on his home turf, if he truly believes he can do that, then we may see. He just fought Mayweather in his first professional fight, and goddamn, it was a competitive fight. And we can run that back and be like, well, Mayweather did this and Mayweather did that, Mayweather let him, and blah blah blah. But I guarantee you, if you were with me, next to me, watching that fight, you were like, oh my God, this is a goddamn fight, and I don't know who's winning for the first 7 rounds.
Yeah.
So I think to answer your question is, yeah, he is that crazy. I would hate to see Ferguson, get robbed. But again, this is the entertainment business. And that kind of leads to my next point, which is the Bellator Heavyweight Championship tournament. I've got the fights in front of me, and kind of going back to the Robert Follis, when Robert Follis started coaching, man, there wasn't any future in this. There wasn't any fame in this. There wasn't any money in this. And most of the guys in this tournament started in that era. Frank Mir versus Fedor. Okay, those are 2 guys in that tournament that are fighting each other. That when they started, the evolution of a professional fighter back then, when they started, and their evolution is very similar, is they fought to see how tough they were. They fought because it was pretty cool. They learned right away they were pretty good at it. And then it started being cool. They started getting some swag with the fighting. Then came the money. Then came the fame. All right? Then, now what is it? It's for the money. Because fame is not what it's cracked up to be. Okay? I guarantee you, ask Frank and ask Fedor, what are you fighting for? If it's just you and him, I'm fighting for the money. That's a money fight. Mitrione and Nelson. Now, when Mitrione started fighting, he was already a professional football player, so he went into the tough house. There was prospects of fame and fortune in the sport. When Roy Nelson started fighting, there wasn't. There wasn't no fame and fortune. Roy was fighting, like Chael says, at the dog parks for $50. That fight's a money fight. That's what that fight is, a money fight. You go to King Mo and Ryan Bader, both of those guys are light heavyweights, and both of those guys got into the sport again when there was opportunity for fame and fortune. Okay? That is the only fight that matches 2 guys up from that era, from the era where, it was, you could say it was the entertainment era. Yeah. It wasn't the old era. Yeah, absolutely. And then the last fight is Rampage and Sonnen. Both those guys, same thing. I know for a fact when Chael started fighting, it was because he wasn't ready to do anything else, and he wasn't ready to quit wrestling, and he was pretty good at it. And he looked up to Randy and Matt and Dan, and they were doing it. But nobody thought there was a future in this thing. I mean, Randy is the biggest one of all of them. I remember what his goals were. His goals were to make $150,000 so he could buy an alpaca farm in Colorado. That was his goals, and he was the biggest of all of them. Okay, so there wasn't any fame and fortune, and I'm going to advance this. I'm going to keep advancing this argument or this point, because this is a tournament. This is a tournament for the World Championship. And how is one of these guys going to win the World Championship? Well, Mir is going to win it with submissions. Fedor, he's going to win it with knocking people out. Ryan Bader, King Mo, and Chael Sonnen, they're going to win it with wrestling. Those guys have to make it, because it is a tournament. It is a tournament. Those guys need to make it a wrestling tournament. First round of a wrestling tournament is your toughest round. It's the toughest one to get through. So when you look at these guys and see who's going to win the fight, each and every one of them are the same thing, because every one of these fights is a money fight.
Every one of these fights is a money fight. So if you look at Chael Sonnen, for instance, if Chael Sonnen is going to beat Rampage, he has to beat him in a wrestling match. He has to beat him in a 15-minute wrestling match. He has to go back to, he has to take away all of his entire history of being a fighter. Because most of it, well, that's not true. He struggled for a while before he blew up in the Anderson fight, in the Marquardt fight a little bit before that in Okami. But for a long period of time, Chael's been a character with fame and fortune. He's got to get rid of all that, okay? No wrestler on the planet has that. They don't. He's got to get rid of the swagger and shine. He's got to go back to the wrestling tournament when he was a sophomore in high school, when his dad got him up at 5 o'clock in the morning, when there were 32 people in the weight class, and he got there and he looked at the board and he had to figure out how he was going to beat 6 different state champions. And at the end of the day, at 9 different matches later, when he never left the place, he stayed in the gym all day, he had the trophy. He's going to have to go back and become that person, because that person is going to put away all of the distractions. This is a tournament for the heavyweight championship of the world. All of these guys are past their prime. Most of them. Bader and King Mo, you can make a case for them, but the rest of them are. They're past their prime. Just, that's a true statement. So for Chael Sonnen to win this tournament, he's got to make it a wrestling tournament. He has to make it a wrestling tournament. Nobody cares if he gets 7 takedowns against Rampage, 4 takedowns his next match, and 6 takedowns his next match, and becomes the Bellator heavyweight world champion. Nobody cares how he did it. Everybody will respect that he did it. So that same equation goes for Ryan Bader and King Mo. The exact same thing. They have to make it a wrestling tournament. They must make it a wrestling tournament. I wish they did this faster. I wish they did it over the course of 2 weekends. I really do. But my point is, I've watched this sport since 2000, since out of the back bay of my car dealership. I've watched it grow into this amazing spectacle. Okay, everybody's a fighter now, man. Everybody's a fighter. It's absolutely incredible, but it's not the same. It's not the same as it was back then. It is different. It is entertainment. It truly, truly is. And I wanted to get that point across. I'll be watching all those fights. I'll be watching Mir and Fedor, and Ryan Bader and King Mo and Mitrione and Nelson and Rampage and Sonnen. It'll take about 8 to 9 months, I think, to get to the conclusion of it. But that's my take on that tournament. It is for a big prize, and whoever the guy is that wins that tournament, is going to have to want it more than everybody else, because in a tournament, everybody's got the same opportunity.
And do you think they lose some of what it could be because it's spread out so long? Because I personally do. I think, like you said, maybe not 2 weekends, but if they condensed it and made it in a shorter period, it would have a little bit more excitement to it, as opposed to the way it's going to be drug out, and the quarterfinal, all that stuff hasn't even been announced.
That's 100% true. It's 1,000% true. I'm speaking on the mindset of the athlete.
Yeah.
The mindset of the athlete has to be, I'm going to win this tournament. I'm going to win the first round. I'm going to win the second round. I'm going to win the final, and I'm going to be the champion. And this 9 months or 10 months process is the only thing that matters in the world. That's the only thing that matters in the world. They're not going to luck into winning 3 matches.
No.
I wish it was over the course of a month. Okay? Would be better if it was the course of a weekend, or one night. But I'll tell you, I wanted to I was hot on these topics. I was talking today, preparing for this about, it's entertainment. Let me ask you, Kevin, when did you become a fan of the sport?
I watched the earliest ones with my dad. I remember Shamrock and Hoist Gracie, the 45-minute match, whatever that one was, that was just, no time limit, where he's just in the guard for, seemed like eternity. So I remember watching the earliest ones with my dad. And as a wrestler, I was always aware of it. But a real fan, it wasn't until after college. So it was probably 2005, 2006, where I started going, to the Fox and the Hound, the BW3, and watching them, when it was just the pay-per-views. But I remember going and watching every single one. That's when I really became a fan.
Yeah, and 2005. That's just 5 years less than me. But you've watched the sport grow a lot. There was just so much in that time between 2000 and 2005.
Absolutely.
Before that tough show hit, man, it was just a different sport, yeah. Man. I remember watching Randy blow up as the sport was blowing up, and it was just funny. It was just funny. And I've always said it, and there's not a truer statement because I've lived through it. I've watched these guys live through it. Man, these guys don't change that much, but the people around them do. But they're not there for a long time. They're there for a good time. So
did Randy ever get that alpaca farm?
He might have some alpaca out there. He's got a spread out in Colorado I haven't been to. He bought this kit house, and then it just kept growing and growing and growing. So I look forward to going out there. He's got a couple 100 acres and out in the middle of nowhere, nice. But he's got Wi-Fi and cable. So
smart.
That'll help. I forgot to mention and to thank you. Congratulations on getting us our newest sponsor, Whole Foods. How did you get us a sponsorship with Whole Foods?
Persistency. You just be consistent. You bug, and you bug.
I love Whole Foods. Here's the plug for Whole Foods tonight. Man, I love Whole Foods. And, the reason it costs more than the other stores, it's better. It's better. That's just the truth. The soup's better. Everything's fresh. Go to Whole Foods. And if you can't afford it, don't go.
And starting next week, one of our other sponsors, On It, will now be offered be carried, I should say, in all Whole Foods nationwide.
So, there you go.
So On It is now retail exclusively to Whole Foods. So you don't have to order everything, and you don't have to go through all that. You run out, you can go down to Whole Foods and pick up your Alpha Brain, pick up your New Mood.
I am going to go to the Walmart, the Whole Foods that I went to tonight, where I had my soup, and I'm going to get my Alpha Brain next week, and I'm going to be a lot smarter. Brother Sin, wrap it up. I think we did some good work there. I will talk to you tomorrow, brother. Peace.
All right, bro. All right, guys. It is good to be back. Joel had a lot of good topics tonight. Good story about Robert Follis. Had a good insightful take on the Bellator Heavyweight Grand Prix. It ought to be exciting to watch. A lot of varied styles in that tournament. We've got some outstanding wrestlers, as Joel talked about. We've got, we've got Roy Nelson, who, he'll stand there and slug with anybody for as long as it takes. Mitrione, the kid can crack. He's probably older than me, I don't know, but he's right up there. But the dude can throw some bombs, so that's going to be a hell of a fight. It's somewhat unfortunate it's in the first round, but that will draw some excitement to the tournament. And then you got Frank Mir. Frank Mir, a guy who's got UFC wins by armbar, by guillotine, by rear naked choke, by strikes, by knees. The man has many tools. Past his prime, sure. But still, as Toby Keith once said, he may not be as good as he once was, but Frank Mir's a guy that can be as good once as he ever was. And if he comes in there in shape, watch out. He could definitely make a run in that tourney. So very exciting. We didn't get to the college football bowl games tonight. We had planned on that, but we didn't get there. I'm sure you guys watched. We had an outstanding couple of bowl games, a double, triple overtime thriller we had. And now we've got Georgia, Alabama. My take, it's Alabama. They are both outstanding. The last time they played in 2015, Alabama kind of steamrolled them 38-10. In a game like this, it's got to be won typically by quarterback play. Neither of them have a star under center. Georgia does have the two best running backs in the nation, the tandem-wise. But I just don't see it. I think Alabama is still an elite team. I've got Alabama. I'm going to say they win 28-17, Alabama. So looking forward to that anyway. But that's all we've got. I will save the sponsors for next week. Otherwise, I do want to talk about Enlightened. That's a sponsor we have on board. They sent me a free package of stuff to try and talk about on the show. They're carried at a wide variety of grocery stores. They have protein crisp. They're pod bean, I believe, something of that nature. I forget the exact term, but they're delicious. They've got a variety of flavors. Wasabi, sweet Thai chili, dusted cocoa or dusted dark cocoa, cinnamon, just a wide variety of flavors. And if you guys follow my Instagram, you'll see my review. But the pod bean chips were fantastic. 100-calorie packs, perfect crunch, just an outstanding snack. With higher protein, less calories and fat than the same size serving as even almonds, which were typically my go-to. Man, these Enlightened chip crisps are fantastic. And even better is their ice cream. So they've got you guys have probably had Halo Top or one of the other high-protein, low-cal ice creams. Enlightened is right up there, if not better than any I've ever had. I tried the peanut butter chocolate chip as well as the mint chocolate chip. And most times when you get these low-cal protein ice creams, they're kind of dry, kind of icy, and they don't have any real creaminess to them. But not Enlightened. It was very velvety. The peanut butter chocolate chip was outstanding. Very creamy, very natural flavored. It didn't taste like a peanut butter additive or anything like that. It was very smooth, very natural. Just an outstanding product. So if you're like me and you've kind of got a sweet tooth and you try to avoid sugar when at all possible, try Enlightened. You can go to eatenlightened.com and they have a store locator and find the nearest store near you that carries it. And hit me up. I may be able to get you some coupons for free samples from them if we get a big enough response. I will go to them and see what they can do, see if they'll send me out some vouchers, and I can give those away to you guys. But again, eatenlightened.com, see other products, see where they're carried, and give them a try. You won't be disappointed. But that's all we got. I will be in touch with you guys with another Beyond the Truth here in the next few days, I'm sure. Talk a little bit more about the next phase of the nutrition contest case study. I will tell you a little bit about the real case study that I'm putting myself through, and it's something different. I talked a little bit about it on the last video. I'm doing the World Carnivore Month Challenge, where it is 99% red meat in theory, 100% carnivore for the entire month, so all meat. The idea is all meat, no plants, no anything. Obviously no sugar, no carbs, but just meat. And Dr. Baker, the guy that's kind of running it, spearheading the whole thing, you may have heard him on the Rogan podcast, but his diet is literally 99% red meat on a full-time basis. The guy has like two 12 to 16 ounce ribeyes for breakfast every day. Has a little bit of egg and bacon here and there, but that's it. I mean, that's all the guy eats. He's in fantastic shape. So I thought, hey, what the heck? I'll give it a try, put my body through it. It's something completely different than I've done before, and see how I respond. I am losing weight. The first 4 days I've lost weight every day. About 6 pounds the first day, a couple pounds each day after. So I see it's working. I don't know if it's more the meat at this point or if it's just the cutting out of all carbs and any sugars and wine, anything like that I had during December. But it's challenging. I have guilt, with having 3 kids and, family, all that kind of stuff, going out and buying a freezer full of ribeyes and strip steaks. So I've been doing a lot of ground beef, 70-30, some fattier cuts of ground beef. I did a sirloin tip roast, and I did have a bit of chicken, that kind of stuff, and some bacon. So I enjoy it for the most part, but, ground beef's not all that exciting, but it is filling, which is the point. I've been doing it, and the thought is you don't need to eat 5-6 times a day like most nutritionists and nutrition plans advise you to do, myself included. But you eat when you're hungry until you're full, and then you don't eat again until you're hungry. So if you go a day and a half before you feel hungry, you go a day and a half. You don't need to eat. So that's pretty interesting, and it does fill you. I had half a sirloin, probably about 10-12 ounces of sirloin tip roast, and 3 eggs over easy for breakfast. It was absolutely fine all day, worked out full capacity, somewhat fasted then, and wasn't hungry until afterwards. Got home about an hour later and had about 2.5 pounds of ground beef and 2 eggs over easy on the beef as a bit of a condiment with the egg yolk. So it works in that capacity, but I haven't quite gotten through the threshold yet. I don't know if I'm not eating fatty enough cuts, but energy is a little lacking. Come nighttime, I feel a little bit run down, dragging a little bit. I find myself being a little bit irritable. I'm hoping that's just a breakthrough point, and I work through that, and it'll improve. And because the people on it that I've talked to and that post online on the community all feel, report that they always have great energy and feel good on it, and no lethargy, anything like that. So I'm hoping I get through the little bit of darkness here and come out on the other side. But it's definitely interesting. As long as I lose some weight on it, knock off the holiday weight and get lean and chiseled again, it'll be a success. And I already see composition changing a little bit, midsection tightening up, and that kind of stuff. So I will keep you guys posted, as it's definitely interesting. And then we will keep updating on the nutrition case study next week as it actually kicks off. We've got a bunch of people involved. We will talk about that. I'll highlight some of those guys next week, guys and gals. But again, as we talked about earlier in the show, this week was really just the elimination week, just cutting out all the crap that we know we shouldn't have in our diet and in our life. So, cutting those out and getting closer to a square one, a clean starting point, is what week 1's all about. And week 2, we really, start grinding. And the workouts will all be coming to you guys in the next day or so. I have been working on those, typing those up today. So I will shoot those all out to you participants that you want to, those of you that want to add those in with the nutrition. It certainly helps if you're trying to lose weight, if you're trying to change your body composition, lean up, get more muscular, tighten up, all that kind of stuff. The working out along with the nutrition will certainly help. It will help your cause. It will help speed up your success. But obviously nutrition is number one, and that's something that is a long-term lifestyle change that we're trying to put in place for all you guys. So I look forward to digging more into that. So I hope you guys are crashing into 2018 so far, like the great Miley Cyrus said, like a wrecking ball, because that's what I'm doing, and that's how I plan to keep it. So for the Godfather, This is Brother Sin. This is the truth. We're out.